Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion, and the fit for this video is my Data Over Dogma baseball shirt. Let's take a look at a video.
This Sunday, when you go and sit in your megachurch, you're not worshiping the resurrection of Jesus. You are participating in the pagan ritual and festival of Easter and the worship of the god Ishtar, the fertility god, who is aligned with the god Moloch, who they sacrifice children to.
So none of these three claims is accurate. Easter was never a pagan ritual and festival until neo-pagans in the 19th century began adapting it to serve their interests. It originates in a Christian adaptation of the Jewish Passover, which in Hebrew is Pesach, and the Greek transliteration is Pascha. And so ever since it began, the overwhelming majority of Christians have always referred to it by some variation on that Greek transliteration, Pascha. No one ever called it Easter for several centuries until Christians in Europe began to refer to it that way because they named it after the month in which it was celebrated, which was Ostermonat. And that month borrowed its own name, according to the Venerable Beda, from a Germanic spring goddess named Eostra. And the etymology of that word seems to support this Germanic spring goddess identification. But the festival never had anything to do with that Germanic spring goddess. It was just the name that was transferred to the month and then to the name of the festival. The associations of some of the features of the celebration of Easter with that Germanic spring goddess are inventions of folklorists, particularly German ones, in the 19th century. There are absolutely no ancient data whatsoever that support any kind of connections between this Germanic spring goddess and the way Easter is celebrated. There are absolutely no connections whatsoever between Easter and Ishtar, and there are absolutely no connections whatsoever between Easter and Molech, which, by the way, was never a deity worshipped by anyone in the ancient world. The Northwest Semitic word Molech was just a noun that referred to a type of sacrifice. But over time, that sense was forgotten, and by the time the Hebrew Bible was translated into Greek, it was being misunderstood as a reference to a deity no one ever worshipped.
And put eggs in their blood and sacrifice that to their god.
So this is another ludicrous conspiracy theory that was just entirely made up. Eggs became connected with Easter in medieval Europe because Christians began to use them to break the Lenten fast, because eggs kept a lot longer than meat and dairy, and so people had them around. And then elites began to exchange them as gifts and would paint them in symbolic colors like red for the blood of Jesus, green for new life, yellow for joy. And then it was in the 19th century when the use of eggs becomes standardized in celebrating Easter in ways that we would recognize today.
Jesus, his resurrection does not change dates like the Easter holiday. It was actually in the Israel calendar Nisan 17, which translates to April 5th for us, is when we should celebrate his resurrection.
So even if we tied the celebration of Easter to Passover, it would still be on a different day every year in the Gregorian calendar. But the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE decoupled the celebration of Easter from the Passover. They didn't want it to fall on the Passover, and so they came up with a way to calculate the celebration of Easter that would still have it tied to the lunar calendar, which is what the Jewish calendar is tied to, but would ensure that it wouldn't fall on the Passover. And so it falls on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox, and that is why it is on a different day every year in the Gregorian calendar.
But I'm sure you don't want to hear that. Sorry.
I would love to stop hearing this misinformation, but unfortunately people are going to continue to spread this misinformation every year until the Earth crashes into the sun.